The Bay regions of most concern, Baidoa and Barkaba districts in the south-central parts of the country, where the UN warns a famine could last until March next year, with the last famine to hit the country in 2011 claiming 250,000 lives, with at least half of those children.
We're facing the reality of the consequence of 4 failed rainy seasons, unprecedented, by the way, even in Somalia, for God's sake, and the likelihood in October to December of the failure of a 5th, as predicted by meteorologists, including from the UN, and the likelihood of a 6th in January, March of next year. This has never happened before in Somalia. So all those pictures that we all grew up with, this is unprecedented.
The Integrated Food Security Phase classification defines famine as an extreme deprivation of food, where starvation, death, destitution and extremely critical levels of acute malnutrition are evident. IPC Phase 5, which is famine, is attributed when an area has at least 20% of households facing an extreme lack of food, where at least 30% of children are suffering from acute malnutrition, with 2 people for every 10,000 dying each day due to outright starvation or disease linked to malnutrition. The drought has left more than 7 million people, almost half of the country, dependent on food assistance, while displacing at least 1 million people from their homes. Griffith speaking from Mogadishu after visiting the epicenter of the hunger crisis, with warnings that the worst is yet to come.
It's going to get worse, because if famine comes, what we know about famine from all the studies over many, many years, and I've been part of them myself years ago, famine kills. Famine kills through disease. Hunger is a gateway to disease. So what that means is, if you're going to try to save people from famine, you need to do it through bringing health, nutrition, water supply, and food inputs together in one package to people who are at risk of dying from famine and from hunger behind it. The agencies here are working together to do that. The big challenge, this is my second point, is to get to the people before they move.
A situation further complicated by elevated food prices exacerbated by the war in Ukraine and the ever-present threat of the Al-Shabaab militant group that last Friday killed more than 20 people while destroying trucks laden with food aid in the country's central region of Iran.
I met the Prime Minister this afternoon. These people are trying to do their best to work with humanitarian organizations. We know how difficult and sensitive is the issue of reaching people in the areas of where they come from, because many of those areas are under the control of Al-Shabaab. We know what that's like. We know how difficult it is. This government is doing its best, and there's a good news story from Somalia, which is they know what's needed. They've seen success. It was 2017. And I argue, of course, for solidarity this year to help the people of Somalia get through.
The UN appealing to donors to provide immediate and flexible funding to enable the rapid scale-up of humanitarian assistance in order to prevent more deaths and avert a deepening catastrophe. Shervin Bryce-Pease, SABC News, New York.